The feed came in on the open diplomatic band. That was the first thing I noted because it was deliberate. The Vethrani Concord did not broadcast mistakes, they broadcast lessons. I was at the secondary comm station on the bridge of TES Veldran's Reach when the packet resolved. 11 seconds of high-definition footage. Authenticated source stamp from Concord Station Ethon. Timestamp placing it at 14:32 compact standard the previous afternoon. I watched it without sound. The chamber was ceremonial white marble, pale columns, a long ratification table dressed with the flags of 17 signatory worlds. Our delegates were seated in order of seniority, the way the Ethon Accord's protocol specified. Ambassador Petra Alls sat at the center. She was still holding her stylus. At the 0:04 mark, Concord security personnel entered from the chamber's 4 doors simultaneously. The footage was steady, mounted cameras, not a shaking hand. By 0:09 it was over. I noted the timestamp on my log. I noted the source authentication. I noted the chamber designation, Ratification Suite 1, Level 40, Concord Station Ethon, and I cross-referenced it against our own delegation's last confirmed position report, filed at 13:55. Then I closed the feed, walked to the communications officer's station, and asked her to route the packet to Director Haas's terminal on the Terran command deck. She said, "He's already watching it." I went back to my station. I opened a fresh incident file. I wrote at the top, Ethon Incident, 31 dead, executed, open band broadcast, authenticated. I stared at the words for a moment, then I filled in the rest of the fields because the paperwork had to be accurate, and accuracy was the only thing I had to offer the 31 people in that room. Director Haas called a department head briefing at 18:00. There was no shouting. No one put a fist through a bulkhead. The director listened to each department head confirm what they had, asked 3 questions: timing, broadcast scope, Concord statement of intent, and when the answers came back, he looked at his notes for a long moment. Then he said, "Compile everything and forward it to Admiralty within the hour. Full intelligence package, nothing withheld." He paused at the door on his way out and said, "Do not let anyone sit on this." Nobody sat on it. I do not know the exact sequence of decisions at Terran Admiralty Command because I was not in those rooms, and the official record was classified for 11 years before the summary was released. What I know is what I saw from the Veldran's Reach, the orders that arrived, the fleet that assembled, and the speed of it. At 06:14 the following morning, 38 hours after the broadcast resolved on our band, I received an asset repositioning notice. The Veldran's Reach and its attached squadron, 41 vessels, were recalled from patrol and ordered to hold position at Waypoint Karen. By 10:00, a second notice. Karen was now a fleet assembly point. By 14:30, I was watching ship signatures appear on the tactical display one after another, not a trickle, a pour. The Iron Reckoning. That was the designation on the official order stamped that morning from Admiralty Command. Not a task force, not a response group, the Iron Reckoning. 614 warships. I sat at my station and watched the fleet build. Every ship that appeared on that display had come from somewhere, pulled off patrol routes, escort assignments, reserve berths, shakedown runs. Someone at Admiralty had run the math on what the Vethrani Concord understood, had read 11 seconds of open band footage, and concluded that the only message the Concord's ritual logic could process was one written at this scale. At 22:00 on the second day, I pulled the full Vethrani Concord diplomatic file, 17 years of contact, 43 negotiated protocols, 6 partial accords, and this. I read it in 2 hours and then I read it again. Every document in that file had been drafted on their terms, in their format, ratified in their chambers. The Ethon Accords had been the 7th attempt at a binding framework. We had sent 31 people, including our best, because we had wanted it to work. I closed the file and went back to watching the tactical display. I understood that logic. The Concord spoke in ceremony the way other civilizations spoke in words. A public execution in a ratification chamber was not to them an atrocity. It was a declaration, carefully staged, formally witnessed. It meant, "You do not matter." It meant, "Your presence at our table is a courtesy we can revoke." It was a sentence delivered in the most official setting they possessed, because nothing was real to the Vethrani Concord unless it was formalized. They had formalized the deaths of 31 human delegates and broadcast the record on the open diplomatic band, and they had expected the record to stand. We had our own way of formalizing things. The Veldran's Reach was assigned Fleet Command Position, Lead Ship, Center Column, Iron Reckoning Main Formation. I watched Admiral Karras walk onto the bridge at 0600 on the third morning, and I watched her take her station with the same expression she wore during routine patrols. Not grim, not furious, precise. The jump sequence ran at 0700, and every one of the 614 ships in the Iron Reckoning moved in formation. I had seen fleet deployments before. I had never seen one like this, not the size of it, but the quality of the silence on the bridge while it happened. Everyone at their station, doing their job, with the kind of concentration that comes from knowing exactly what you are doing and exactly why. Vethrani Prime resolved on the forward display 17 minutes after the last jump. It was amber-lit, cloud-wrapped, a population center of 42 million, the seat of the Concord's governing body. Our tactical display showed their defense grid coming alive, 47 Concord warships moving to intercept formation, the standard Vethrani response posture, the one their doctrine called sovereign assertion. Admiral Karras keyed the open channel and spoke for 90 seconds. The terms were not complicated. Full withdrawal of Concord forces from disputed border sectors. Immediate extradition of the officers who had commanded the chamber security detail at Ethon. Formal dissolution of the Ethon Accords under Concord liability. Reparations scheduled to be transmitted separately. And no further action would be taken against the Concord civilian population or infrastructure provided compliance, was confirmed within 60 minutes. She said 60 minutes. She closed the channel. I watched the Concord's 47 ships hold their intercept position. I watched the 60-minute clock run. At 38 minutes, a Concord signal came back, not a compliance confirmation, a counter-proposal. They wanted to negotiate the extradition terms. They wanted a face-to-face session with the Admiral. They used the word ceremony 3 times in 11 sentences. They were trying to move us into a format they understood, a format where they controlled the vocabulary. The Admiral looked at the signal transcript on her screen for 4 seconds. She said, "Note the contact for the record. Do not respond." The clock ran. At 61 minutes, she gave the order to the fleet. I am a records officer. My job is documentation. What I wrote in the incident log over the following 4 hours was precise and factual, because that is what the job requires: engagement initiation time, sequence of events, units committed, Concord response patterns, defense grid collapse by sector, civilian evacuation corridors maintained as specified in the terms. The Iron Reckoning did not strike population centers. It did not target infrastructure that civilians depended on. It struck the Concord's defense grid, its military command nodes, its orbital platforms, and the ceremonial fleet that had been assembled to perform sovereign assertion at us. Sovereign assertion lasted 9 minutes before the Concord's senior command authority transmitted a full compliance confirmation on every available band. The Iron Reckoning held position. I logged the compliance signal at 1447. I logged the Admiral's acknowledgement. I logged the ceasefire, the terms accepted confirmation, the handover of the first extradition package, which arrived within 3 hours, 4 officers, military custody, compact warrant attached. The Vethrani Concord spent the next 2 years arguing in interstellar arbitration that the Iron Reckoning's response had been disproportionate. They said this in formal session, with ceremony, with the correct form and the correct dress and the correct diplomatic phrasing, because that was the only language they knew. Arbitration found against them. I kept the incident file open for 4 years. That is how long it took to close every sub-case, the extraditions, the reparations, the border withdrawals, the formal dissolution records. The last item I logged was the completion of the reparation payment, transferred in full to the Terran Remembrance Fund. I wrote the file closure entry on a Thursday morning, and I marked every field, and at the end I noted the final status. 31 delegates, executed in a ratification chamber while the cameras ran. 614 warships. The Concord had wanted the galaxy to understand what it meant to sit at their table. In the end, the galaxy understood something else entirely, what it cost. The file is public record now. Anyone can read it. The Vethrani Concord did, I am told, multiple times. I hope it was instructive.